You know the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? Makes a lot of sense, right? If something's doing its intended purpose, no need to mess around and tinker with it, just let it be. Well, these two don't really care. If they see room for improvements, they're going to make those improvements. It's the engineer from Team Fortress 2 versus Fix-It Felix Jr. from Wreck-It Ralph. Whether it's engineering or constructing, these two will build things to be the best they can possibly be, no matter how many times they get knocked down. But who's gonna build the better road to victory? According to the Discord poll, the engineer has this in the bag and leaves Felix in the dust. Felix does have quite a few more supporters than the previous poll losers though, so maybe there's some hope. With all of that said though, let's begin. Diving into abilities and arsenal, it's no secret that the engineer is going to win this category, but it's not as much of a stomp as people think. I'll explain at the end of this segment. Starting off with the engineer, he has your basic shotgun, your usual pistol, and a melee weapon which is typically a wrench. When combining this wrench with whatever's in his toolbox, the engineer can construct several different machines in a matter of seconds, including a sentry gun for homing in on enemies, a dispenser for restoring health and ammo, and teleporters for getting the Engie from one place to another. Some of his basic weapons can even be used to service these machines, like the Rescue Ranger, which allows engineer to fire ammo at his machines and repair them from a long distance. Or the Wrangler, which lets engineer turn off the motion sensing of his sentry gun and take control into his own hands. And then we have the Eureka effect, allowing engineer to use his own teleporter exit no matter where he is, even if he's not at the teleporter entrance. Now, while the gameplay of Team Fortress 2 tries to tell us that the engineer can only have one pair of teleporters, one dispenser, and one sentry gun active at a time, the Meet the Engineer introduction video shows us that he can have multiple. Now we come to Fix-It Felix Jr. He's an energetic little video game character. He can sprint really fast and jump really high, a distance of at least 20 feet as he clears 2 penthouse floors. But his most notable tool is his magic hammer, which can completely repair anything it touches. In fact, it can even go as far as being able to heal wounds and repair the body. Take note though, Felix's hammer is not a multi-purpose tool, it's magical. Even if he intends to break something with it, it's always gonna heal. This doesn't mean Felix is completely offenseless though. He has 2 hands, he can throw a punch, there's no reason why he couldn't, we just haven't seen him do it. But there's also something else that I don't really think anyone has thought about, and that's the fact that characters in Wreck-It Ralph know how to reprogram their own games or another game, even going as far as to alter their character model or change their entire world. It's not too unreasonable to assume that if given the chance, Felix could reprogram one of the engineer's machines. Add on a pie that can make him invincible for a little bit, and he's not doing too bad for himself. Engie definitely still wins this category, but Felix is keeping up pretty close. Let's see if any of the YouTube comments made sure not to underestimate Felix too much. Speed is actually very clearly in Felix's favor. The engineer doesn't have much at all. Now, he does have supersonic combat speeds by default simply because of the ammunition of his weapons. But as far as his own travel and reaction speed goes, it's not much higher than that of a regular human. Now, the Engie sentries are able to keep their aim on a scout, even when he's under the effects of bonk, which can make him reach relativistic speeds, but the ammo it fires still remains at that basic supersonic speed bullet timing. Even a scout without the effects of bonk is able to quick-step the bullets. When we come to Felix, he doesn't exactly have any travel speed feats of note either, but we do know he can sprint so quick it leaves a trail of smoke behind, so at least it's better than Engie. His reaction speed is what I want to focus on, as he was able to dodge a bunch of soldiers firing at him at close range. And this was no fluke either. Immediately after, he was able to identify Ralph while moving in a Hero's Duty escape pod at speeds too fast for Sonic the Hedgehog to react to. Now, obviously this is Disney Wreck-It Ralph Sonic, not video game canon Sonic, but he should still hold his reputation of being faster than sound, so Felix's speed is consistent. As far as strength goes, it's about equal. For many people, it would seem like Felix loses this category simply because he's not Ralph, who can knock down entire buildings. But just because he isn't Ralph doesn't mean he isn't close. For example, he's able to take a hit from Sergeant Calhoun, who is strong enough to knock Ralph off his feet. Felix obviously took more damage than Ralph from her punch as it caused swelling and bruises, but it's not like it fatally wounded him or anything. Not to mention, it only takes 3 nice landers who Felix should be superior, or at least equal to overpower Ralph and throw him off the building. So yes, Felix obviously isn't as strong as Ralph, but having a third or even a half of Ralph's strength isn't too hard to believe. As for the engineer, he can survive his own weapons blowing up in his face, his weapons can do damage to giant robots and tanks in the man versus machine mode, and while he may not be as quick as the Scout, he's definitely tougher. And that's pretty impressive considering the Scout can survive an explosion from 3 soldier rockets that sends him flying, or abuse from Saxton Hale who can punch Yeti so hard they explode into bits. Some of the engineer's weapons can also completely vaporize human bodies, or those robots I mentioned earlier, something that requires building levels of power to accomplish. So yeah, this is a pretty close match so far. Before we take one last look at these guys and pick out a winner, let's peek at these Discord predictions, and a video prediction from J Diamond Sonic.
In this corner, we have the engineer from Team Fortress 2 versus Fix-It Felix Jr. from the movie Wreck-It Ralph by Disney. And who do I think is going to win this one? Well, I'm going to say the engineer due to one category. Arsenal. Yes. The main category that I think that Leo is going to be focusing on in this battle would be their arsenal. Because everything else is just kind of meaningless in my opinion, but still. Okay, the arsenal advantage definitely goes to the engineer. Why? Because his is focusing on offense rather than defense. Whereas Fix-It Felix Jr. is basically not offense, but rather fix fence. Let me explain. In the movie, in 2 movies actually, it states that Fix-It Felix Jr.'s hammer is only capable of fixing, not destroying. And if he were to try to beat down the engineer with his magic hammer, it would basically cure him instead of destroy him. So that's my opinion. Bah!
For this extra final segment, there's only really one topic to discuss, and that's both of these characters' abilities to respawn. In Team Fortress 2, respawning has pretty much become canon thanks to Medic messing with his teammates' souls. Both the Scout and the Medic have come back from death of their own will. As for Felix, he's an arcade character. Extra lives and continues are just part of the gig, it's only natural. However, these only exist inside his own game. If he leaves his game, he doesn't regenerate, ever. Game over. And while you could say, well, why not just have them fight in Fix-It Felix Jr. then, so Felix can have his extra lives and be at maximum potential? That wouldn't actually be his maximum potential because he'd be locked to other rules of his game, like instantly being killed by something as small as falling debris. And that's just one of the reasons why I believe the winner of this matchup would be the Engineer. Yes, Felix is equal in strength to the Engineer and even slightly faster, but without a solid ranged offensive option, there's no way Felix is going to be able to do enough damage to get the job done. Again, there's no reason Felix shouldn't be able to throw a typical punch, but even with his incredible speed, it'd be extremely difficult for him to get in close and stay there. With how many sentries the Engineer can have active at once, it wouldn't be long before Felix makes a fatal mistake. And while Felix's healing is more instantaneous, he still has to do it himself, while the Engineer can just relax next to his dispenser. While Felix did prove himself to those who underestimated him for simply not being Ralph, it still wasn't enough for him to defeat the Engineer's philosophy of use more gun. But thank you to everyone who predicted in this episode. Be sure to predict the next episode by either leaving a comment down below, commenting in my Discord server, leaving a vote in the Discord poll, or even making a video prediction so you can get featured in the next episode. As for the next episode, we are taking a look at 2 perfectionists. Now there's nothing wrong with doing your best and trying your hardest, but it is possible to go too far. And that's what happened to these 2 fighters who went mad trying to fulfill a role that was promised to them, but never really destined for them. Tai Lung from Kung Fu Panda versus Azula from Avatar: The Last Airbender.